Welcome to Careers in Finance. My name is Andrew Stotz, and I'm excited to bring you today's session where we talk about careers in finance. How do you start a career in finance? How do you grow your career in finance? How are you successful in your career in finance? For me, I started my career in finance in 1993, and I can say I had a great time, met great people, really enjoyed myself in my job in finance. And I hope that's going to be the same for you. And that's part of the reason why I like to talk to people about careers in finance, because I want to show people that we can have careers in finance that are fun and challenging and ultimately things that we really, really enjoy. So today's special guest, I'm going to bring him on now. His name is Pichet, and I'm really excited to have him on. So let's just bring him right here. Pichet, welcome to Careers in Finance.
Hi, Andrew. Great to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you with us, and I've really been looking forward to talking to you to kind of learn about your journey in finance. We've lived somewhat parallel lives without much crossing over.
Never actually worked in any deal.
Yeah. No, we definitely were kind of in different directions. But I think why don't we start off with you introducing yourself and what you're doing now, and then later we'll start to talk about how'd you get there.
Okay. My name is Pichet, and I'm currently work as President of Bualuang Securities. That's a full-time job, but actually I kind of like use a lot of time with another kind of work, which is the association work. I'm the chairman of the Association of Thai Securities Companies, and also I also sit on the board of governors of the Stock Exchange of Thailand. So that those two eat up a lot of my time.
Yeah, it's always I always wonder how people can manage. Obviously, just running a business is already.
I know. I also wonder that.
How do you manage it? Tell me more about how you manage your time.
Oh, it's a nightmare actually. I'm lucky that I have a very good staff, very good team at Bualuang to help manage the team and also the system here with the support of the bank and the directors also help a lot. So basically, we have to make sure that we have a good team, good system, so that we can also do industry work.
And maybe you could just explain what Bualuang does, just for those that are listening that may not understand exactly, like what's the main part of the business and how has that changed over time?
Right. Basically, Bualuang is fully integrated in securities companies. We are 100% owned by Bangkok Bank, but a bit different from any other bank in Thailand is that we kind of like not in the same building as Bangkok Bank, in a way that we are a bit independent from I would say any other banks. We have the full team here, different from other banks, so that the bank control us through the board of directors. We have the representative from the bank, so that basically it's not the day-to-day that they control us, but it's by the policy in that sense.
So that means, I guess, that you have more flexibility to run
Exactly.
the business how you want and what you think is
Exactly.
to be responsive in that way.
Right. So basically, the bank give us a policy so that make sure that we, of course, comply with the rules, and also they set up like a very rough idea of what they want the security firms to be. So like I said, it's not a day-to-day thing, but make sure that we run the business right and make sure that we covered or try to be the leaders in each business unit that we are in.
Great. And tell us a little bit about the different businesses. I mean, if we go back in time when you first started there, maybe one part of the business was much more generating much more revenue than another part, or what's changed over time?
I would say, as you know, in Thailand, securities companies or brokers still very rely on broking business, right? Unlike when you see the news in US many years ago that they start to do zero commission, how they do that, right? But in Thailand, of course, with the rules that we are in, I think that kind of business is totally different, right? So basically, Thai brokers still rely on broking business a lot, right? So what we are aiming at Bualuang is that we try to make sure that we can balance that well. Compared to other brokers which still rely on broking business a lot, we try to add more business. For example, our investment banking is very strong, and also we try to create our own product. For example, we are the first one who issued the Thai DR, the depository receipt in Thailand. Right now we have 10 of them, and we are the market share in that market. We also one of the leaders in the derivative warrant issuers, so that we try to come up with those new products so that we don't really rely on broking business itself. So that's why if you compare like now to 10 years ago, I would say that right now each broker has to come up with a new business model, while like almost like 20 years ago when we all started the career, everybody do the same thing, right? Other than broking, what else you do? Investment banking, that's it, right? But
yeah,
right now each broker has to come up with a new business model.
There wasn't these different instruments that you've mentioned, as well as there wasn't access to U.S. markets or global markets. What about the services that you guys provide related to investing outside of Thailand?
I think that the way that we look at it is probably different. That we tried this like many years ago. That we understand that, of course, if we do the business like what we did in the past, people can use any broker, right? So what we try to do is like come up with the innovation, with the education program, so that people stick to our brand, people stick to Bualuang. We try to come up with new service, online service, so that clients at least know the value, right? In the old days, as you know, people like jump around, right? Customer jump around. Anybody who give the good fee, right, the good commission, they just jump. But we want to make sure that they understand what they are working at, right? So that's why we, during the past like 10 years, we do a lot on education and then innovation, like I said.
And why don't we go back in time and let's talk about when you first entered the field of finance?
Oh,
what did you study at the time, and what were you?
Actually, my route probably different from many others. Actually, I finished my bachelor as an industrial engineer. So actually, my first job is to work in the car company, Mitsubishi Motors. Then, which and I work in the international business division. At that time, we export cars to Canada, right? This is a long time ago. I know if you know the word Lancer Champ, the cheap car, which we export as a Dodge and Plymouth in those days. And then I went for of course it's a trend then, right? I went for an MBA, and I finished my MBA at the University of Texas, Austin, which I enjoy football a lot. Then I came back and still work as a export manager at the same company for 3 more years, and then I was asked by Khun Montri, if you remember, of course, to join. He's my senior at Chulalongkorn, right? So he asked me if I'd like to join. So I joined him at Jadin Fleming Sanakom, right? The name that what is Jadin Fleming Sanakom, right? Long gone. Right? So I joined him in.
What were things like then? At that time, I was at maybe WI Carr or something like that.
Oh yeah, those names that not exist now, right?
Yeah, exactly. But what was going on in those days? What was hot?
Actually, I have no idea. You want this show to be fun, right? I can tell you this. Khun Montri asked me if I was to join. I said, "What do you do?" He said he issued this ECD. I said, "What is ECD?" He said, Euro Convertible Debenture. I said, "What is Euro Convertible Debenture?" He explained into Thai, right? I said, "What is that?" I still don't understand what it is. So basically, I joined the team without knowing much about it, right? So 1994 is a fun year, actually. For me, every day is a new day. I start my career when I only know 2 stocks, BBL, because my dad worked for BBL.
Right.
And I know the other stock is CED, Science and Education. Remember that? Because I translate a book for them. That was a long time ago.
That's crazy.
Every day is a new day. I came to office like 7 o'clock. I read about like 4 to 5 newspapers to understand what the business is all about. talk to people, learn about the business from nothing. Because even though I finished my MBA in, actually it's a double major, it's a finance and marketing. I don't have much idea of finance. I can tell you that.
But you were good at marketing.
Yes, I think I'm good in marketing. Yes.
Yes, marketing is a challenge, I tell you.
Yeah. It's fun.
I just want to mention to the people that are listening and viewing, feel free to ask any questions. Happy to bring those questions on board. When exactly did you start? You started in '94 in the.
I joined Kun Montri in investment banking, and actually it's a marketing part of investment banking. So basically, I help him prepare the presentation, not those crunching number thing.
Right.
I have no idea. So I help him present the work, that kind of stuff. Do those syndication and things. So I worked with him for like 6 years, and then that's like in the year 2000. But
Right.
actually, it's very fun because at the time our team is a very young team. I think most of the people are like 30 years old. That's all. I mean, Kun Gor, right? Kun Gor also like only 1 year older than me. So it's a young team. So we work really hard. I would say that I always tell my people that at that time it's so funny that people at Jardine Fleming, we work until 11 to make decision if we're gonna go home or not. Because in this building, Silom Complex, after 11, you need to call them to ask for the elevator. That's all. So that's why you just make the decision at 11 if you're gonna go home or not. That's all. It's just a stupid thing.
It's crazy. At that time, I was at SIAC all summer tall at Tamanok Finance, Dynamic Eastern.
Oh yeah.
And in the old building that's long gone, but yeah, it was. I remember late nights there, and
yeah.
I didn't work that late though. I must say in my career, because as an analyst on the sell side, I had to get in super early, and then
that's different.
I would come in early, and then I would at about 6 or something, I would be gone. In fact, I tell people I never really worked evenings, but when you're working on deals and those types of things, I think you end up working a very different type of day.
Yeah. Sometimes we go out to client's office and come back like 6 o'clock and start our work. So it's like a day shift at client's office, night shift in our office.
At that time in 1994, the Stock Exchange of Thailand was trading at 1789. In
Something
fact,
like that.
January of 1994 was the peak. I had been in the market for about 4 months, and it had already doubled. And then it was a long slide down to
the bottom. Yeah. I joined in, I think in August. I joined in August, and things were like crazy, yeah.
And how did you? What did you do next? So after.
This is even more interesting. Actually, my wife and I bought a franchise from US. We bought a master franchise for Jimbori Play and Music. It's a kids business, so it's totally different. So I left JF and helped my wife start that business in 2000. Yeah, we went. I told my boss that I want to go to explore this thing. If I can negotiate for the good price, I'll stay for a week for training. And then so I negotiate for the good price, and I stay there for like 10 days. I come back and I quit my job in I think August 2000. No, June 2000. Something like that. Yeah.
And how did that go? That must have been a whole different story.
Oh, totally different. Yeah, it's like you become your own boss, right? So we start with 2 people. We start with 1 branch. Right now we have about 10, something like that. I forgot. I mean, I haven't worked for that for a long time, but it's another type of business, totally different at all. Yeah, but again, it works even harder because you work like 7 days a week, right? No holiday.
What did you learn from that experience?
Oh, everything by yourself. Everything you do by yourself. I mean, we used to have like a teacher that don't show up, so I like spend 5 minutes looking at the lesson plan and jump in, just like that.
Incredible. Yeah. In fact, you get a new respect for entrepreneurs and startups and CEOs that are trying to get things done out there.
Exactly.
Sometimes in the financial world, you got a lot of people that never really worked in finance or in
yeah.
the real world. So, they don't know.
Actually, that's very interesting. This is something I want to share. When I work at Mitsubishi Motors, once we had a guest coming in, they are like a master degree in I don't know where, and they would like to visit the factory. And my boss asked me, "Can you just like tag along, just give them some tips, whatever, right? Like a tour, right? Because they don't want the engineers there to give a tour because this is like MBA program. I think it's an MBA program somewhere.
Right.
So I joined them, and I saw one of the students, the MBA students. They just like this guy just like look at one of the workers working, like he just like look at it like this. It's like so seriously. I said, why? You know what he said? He said he works for the bank, a bank. He never saw a person working that hard. I was like, oh, okay. Now you're in a like a car factory. So what do you expect, right? It's another world, right? So you're right. I mean, working in finance is totally different from like those like hands-on, dirty hands, right? Yeah,
That's
totally
where
different.
I tell a lot of young people who want to get a job as an analyst or something like that in the world of finance. Sometimes if they worked as an engineer or they worked in factory or something like that, they think they can't get a job in finance. But if they pass like CFA as an example and they demonstrate that they've got a skill or interest in it, then they can enter the world of finance. And the key thing is to kind of figure out your angle. I had a student in the valuation masterclass from Malaysia, and he had been a engineer working on the rigs, and
Wow.
he wanted to come and be an analyst,
Right.
but he felt like he doesn't have anything to offer. Though he was taking the CFA, he was taking my valuation masterclass. But in the end, I was like, wait a minute, you know more about oil and gas exploration than probably most of the analysts covering it. That's your angle to get in, is that you have some industry experience.
Yes.
It's interesting. I started a business also in 1995, and that was my business called Coffee Works. Which
Yes, I know that.
My best friend Dale basically is the guy who runs that, and that's now almost getting close to 30 years.
Yeah.
And but it's been quite a roller coaster ride. We started sales in 95, 96 looked okay, but not much sales. We were just beginning. We had a factory and all that, and then 97 happened, and the bot collapsed, and then all of a sudden, our customers dried up, and then I lost my job at the time.
Oh.
I was working at Peregrine at the time.
Oh.
And they ended up having to close. And so we ended up moving into our factory and staying in the accounting room. We moved out all the stuff, and then we set up 2 beds like we're back at university. And those were some pretty brutal times. I mean, what was going on in your life in 1997 when the 97 crisis hit?
Actually, it's totally different because I mean we start our this small business in 1994, and of course when you become a master franchise, you expect to sell franchise, right? Our first 2 years, I mean, people ask for it, but never really invest in one. So actually, after a while, after 2 years, we think about why don't we open one by ourselves, right? We have the first one is Sukhumvit, and then we think that we look at the map. I mean, this is probably the best thing I learned from finance world, that you need to think a lot. You need to use the data. And at that time, it's stupid data. I mean, it's not like today's world that you have big data, right?
Yeah.
What I did is like, I basically mapped. Imagine in those days, we don't have this like a good Google map. We have the stupid Google map and then. So actually, I bring the zip code of each of my client in Sukhumvit and basically point down each one by myself to see what's the next area that we should be in. I mean, hand pick, hand
There were
mark.
special pins that we bought to put on maps.
I think I put on PowerPoint. I mean, I just mark, X, right, to see where they are. So we decided to open one in Bang Na, and it's so funny when we decide to invest by ourselves. People now ask, can they buy it? So actually, we start having more franchise then. So actually 96, 97 for us is not that bad. I mean, compared to like financial world, right? Because we are kids business. Of course, many people hurt, but we are kids business. and that time still okay. I would say our worst time is actually when COVID came 3 years ago, right? Because I mean, no parent will bring kids to any place, right? So that's the time that it's like nothing. It's similar to other hospitality business. It's similar to hotels. It's similar to airlines. No one go, right? So that's our first time. In comparing to 97 is nothing.
Yeah. When I started in 94 and in 95, I was asked to cover banks. And so I started trying to cover the banking sector, and I went for visits at Bangkok Bank from 95, and I met your father.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a lot of fond memories of, he was always so kind to welcome me and other analysts. I mean, he was always an open door. And to go and sit in the room of the office of the director of Bangkok Bank was quite incredible for me. I remember one time coming up the elevator when Khun Chatsuri, the new president or incoming president of the bank, was there, and I was in the elevator. It was a big deal for me. I'm just a skinny little boy from Cleveland, Ohio, and I can tell you that I had never experienced that. So I was a bank analyst, and I really learned a lot from your father, and he was always an open door, which I appreciated a lot.
Glad to hear that.
And
I learned a lot about that too from many people in investment banking and also in analysts. Yeah.
And as you mentioned about Jimboree, it reminds me of him telling the story of, hey, my son's doing this.
There should be a brochure stand in his office.
Yes, exactly. I seem to recall another thing related to a Chinese restaurant, but
yeah. He actually opened a Cantonese restaurant because he at one point in time in his life he stayed in Hong Kong. So and then he found a guy who runs the business restaurant business. So they opened together, but unfortunately it's 1997. So his Hong Kong partner left. So we end up on that for 10 years. And actually my wife and I took that business, but we moved to Sukhumvit where Jimboree is for a few years and closed down. But now we reopened. Right now we have one in the Malta Pra.
It was such an incredible time for Bangkok Bank at that time, and for all the banks in Thailand. And it was a great time to be an analyst because I was living through the boom times from 95 until 97, and then the bust times. But what I remember about Bangkok Bank was that I always tell people the story from my interpretation. Could be a lot of things wrong with it, but why is it that Bangkok Bank, the family still owns a large part of the bank? Well, one of the things was around the time of the crisis, the bank leadership at that time, I believe that Khun Chatri was still chairman. Your father was on the board, and I believe Chatsuri was maybe the president by then at that time. But they had done an issuance of shares at a very favorable price for foreign investors. In those days, we had premiums, right, where foreign investors paid a lot more. And that was a very savvy move. I think it happened like right before the crisis happened, which brought in a large amount of capital. And then the second part of this was when the devaluation happened, Bangkok Bank still had about 25% of its assets outside of Thailand. So that was the second thing that allowed Bangkok Bank to weather the storm. But the third one was quite interesting, where Bangkok Bank went out. They were the only ones that would have such a huge amount of US dollar denominated ECDs or convertibles and other types of bonds that were outstanding. And then the bank bought those bonds up at pennies or 10 cents on the dollar or whatever that price was, because the world thought Thai banks were all going to collapse. And they were able to book about a 6 or 7 billion baht gain in their P&L at the time, which boosted the capital, which prevented them from having to do a massively dilutive issue, which all the other banks ended up having to do. And I just remember being an analyst at that time and watching it all going on. And I just felt like, what an amazing time for Thailand. And what an interesting difference between, let's say, the different banks and how they handle the situation.
Yeah, each one come up with different policy, right? Different strategy. Yeah.
So tell us, keep going. When did you start to work with Bualuang?
Yeah, so actually I work for my own company from 2000 until like I think 2005, and then the Bulong called me and asked if I want to be an independent director, because at the time Bulong listed on the stock exchange,
Mm.
right? So I joined Bulong actually first as an independent director, right? Just attend meeting, right? Like 5 6 meetings a year with like audit committee, whatever. And then in 2008, after the crisis, another crisis, right? We talk about crisis. Yeah, in 2008, after September, when Lehman gone, right? I think at that time, uh, there's also a change in Buluang, and the the president then he would like to step down. So my assistant chairman Chong, he asked me if like to join as a president. I was like, what? Right? I mean, wow, really?
That's a big
So
role.
I know. I was like, okay. So I mean, evaluate and think about it, like, and they consult a few of my friends and colleague and ex-colleague, and said, why not, right? I think you think. I mean, if they think you can do it, you do it, right? So I stepped in February 2009, and restart the whole career again, right? I mean, and as you know, I mean, I was only the investment banker, and to run the whole company is totally different story, right? You need to understand like your work, like
Mm.
analyst work, and you need to understand the broking, which I don't know much about it. You need to understand even the asset management part, because Bullock also run a private fund then. So it's like it's another new world. It's like every day is a new day again.
Well, a lot of young people feel intimidated. Some people feel imposter syndrome and things like that. How did you handle, going into such a big role, without having prior, let's say, build up to it?
I think it's all about mindset, right? I mean, if you have a good mindset, you just want to do it. And okay, let's put it this way. My father taught me that you will always try your best. So I have my mindset that I mean just try your best, right?
Right.
I was like, okay, let's do it. And like I said, I mean part of it. I think Bulung has a very good system, very good team, so that helps a lot. But
Mm.
again, you need to learn a lot too, right? So every day, it's like you go into one meeting. It's like you go back to college years. That each hour is different subject, right? You step in. It's like, okay, this is physics, this is math, this is English, this is whatever.
Yeah. Well, the other thing about, your father, and I think it carries on with you, is that you treat people in a kind way, so if you treat people in a good way, then, people respond and you get the support and the help that you need to achieve your goals, is what I
I
would.
think that's part of it too. I always like to. I think I'm a people person, right? And I'm not really that good in the technical side. So I think I'm good at people. So I talk to people a lot. I ask questions a lot, which is very interesting, because in this business, I would say that no one knows everything, right? I can tell you the one good story. I mean, as a chairman, and also when I start as a one of the directors of the association, that's one question from one guy asking some question, which is like, he's a senior guy. He's much more senior than me. Why he asked that question? And I just realized, because in our business, there are a lot of things that no one knows everything.
Mm.
So in this world, it's very good that you just ask question, right? If you don't know, make sure you know.
And how do you go for people that feel like uh, I'm going to appear as though I'm stupid or I don't know? How do you what advice do you give to people that feel that way?
I think it's the way you ask too, right? Of course, you ask the same question, but you don't ask in a stupid way,
Right, right.
right? To make sure that you ask. Sometimes you ask in a way that you want to reconfirm your understanding.
Hmm.
You want to make sure that that definition and your definition is the same definition, right?
Yeah,
Because this happen a lot in our world, right?
yeah.
So
It's hard to. I think for a lot of people to ask questions, they get caught up in wanting to look good. I think one of the things I liked about being an analyst is you have to ask questions. It's like
Yes.
a journalist, and even at my age now and where I'm at, I've interviewed more than 800 people on my podcast, on my Worst Investment Ever podcast. And it's all about asking questions and most importantly, listening.
Exactly. Once I have a friend who wants to start a new business. He want to sell something about kids, right? So he come to me and just like test the idea. And I keep asking questions in the way that he wonder why I know about his business. I don't know anything about his business. But we were trained, right? You and me were trained to keep asking questions, right?
Yeah.
So they just like, wow, how do you know about this? I said, I don't have any idea. I just ask you questions, right? Because
it's really a secret weapon. And
yeah.
I have a little book that I keep with me everywhere I go. And as soon as I sit down with somebody, I ask them, you mind if I take notes? And they say, no problem. And then I take notes and try to write, because what I learned is you can't speak and write at the same time. So it forces you to listen. But then you go back to them and say, okay, so let me just review what you've said. You said this, and that. And then it helps to make sure that I understand what they're saying. But also people appreciate it when you listen.
Right. You reaffirm what you get from him, right? But this is also what you asked in the email that we exchanged earlier on, that what we should say in this interview, and that one of the skills I think very important is communication skills. Very important, because we are in the world that we need to make sure we understand it right. So if you want to ask how I learned about all those, like how to ask those questions, you attend the roadshow, whatever, and you learn from it, right? When you start to listen to roadshow, you don't have any idea what this company does, right? After a while, you understand. Oh, you need to go to what point, or what is the key selling point of this company? What are their success critical factor on things, right? I mean, after you keep watching those roadshow, I think you learn a lot, right? And you need to understand or learn how to ask questions on those, right? And after a while, you just get it.
It's an interesting point about communication too. I sent out an email to my students at university, and I went and I sent out some stuff on the first day, and then I went back the next week and I asked the question to them. There's like 30 people in the class, in this particular class, and I asked them the question, how many people do you think responded to that email? And they said, I don't know, 5 or 10 or different guesses, and I said 0.
Ooh.
Not one of these. And we're not talking about, we're talking about some of Thailand's best students, and they weren't communicating. And I think that the idea of communicating with your boss.
Yeah, I think that's one of the culture that we face. I mean, that's even now. That happened in my years, but still happen.
It still happens, and I don't think in your years you could argue that maybe it was a little bit more Grain Jai or
yeah. That's very Thai, right? Very Thai style.
There's some of that, but I would say I think people are so used to getting messages and not responding that they don't know that, hey, you should respond to this, or if you respond to this, you're going to stand out. It's just like everybody's on some sort of email list, right, these days, and you get some emails. Well, it's the same principle. A guy may have an email list sending out 10 emails, 10,000 people. Nobody responds. So I always write back and say, oh, that was really good. Oh, that was interesting. What do you think about that? And now you have a conversation with the people, and people are more accessible.
I have another joke for you.
Tell me.
About responding things. During my first year at my MBA, of course, I have a couple of Thai friends attending the same class. At Austin, we have about the class is so big, it's like 60 people for an MBA course. And American professors talk something, make up one joke, which of course the whole class laugh, and I laugh, right? And my Thai friend asked, "What is all about?" You know what I said? I have no idea. I just want to participate.
Be part of it.
It's American joke, and I don't have any idea. But I want to let him know that this Thai stupid student laugh.
You're enjoying. Yeah, the communication thing got even worse with COVID, where I think people really got,
Oh yeah,
damaged in
yeah.
that the way that they communicate, the way they interact,
Mhm.
and I see, what I think, is some cases permanent damage that it's very hard for
Yeah.
some people to
Did you
communicate.
talk to any professor at universities?
Yes.
Oh, they had a hard time
Yeah.
now.
No, it's hard for everyone. In fact, I would argue that they just did an experiment on kids, basically, to
Oh,
see, what's we don't really know what's going to
mhm.
happen. I had an intern that came to work with me, and her mother brought her, and it's to my home office, but she wore a mask, and she was in even nowadays, and she was kind of in another world, and eventually after working together she loosened up and stuff. But it was just interesting to see how the communication issue is growing. So for young people out there, I think a key message out of this is don't hesitate to communicate.
Yes, and
You'll
don't hesitate
stand
to
out.
ask. I mean,
Yeah,
especially for Thai
ask.
people, we kind of like, yeah, like you said, strange Thai, and we kind of like don't want to show that, don't want to make other people think that you're stupid, right? So you don't ask questions.
Mm,
Yeah. So you need to learn how to ask in the way that it doesn't make you look stupid,
yeah, yeah.
right? And like I said, even in the meeting, in the 10 10 plus CEO of securities firm, I see people ask questions which is okay, right? Sometimes we have one instrument that your company doesn't do. How do you know, right? I mean, you don't care. You just ask, right?
Yeah, I mean that as you say, in the world of finance, it's just an unending amount of new
Oh,
things and stuff to learn, and
and every day is a new day.
yeah, no, it's such a great career. I wanted to talk about, my father passed away about 7 years ago, and I know
Mhm.
your father also passed away,
Last year.
and I know what that feels like, and we had our dads for most of our lives, and I think we're lucky with that. But I always wanted to tell you something that on the final night of your dad's service at the church,
Hmm.
I got in the car with my mom and with my driver and my mom to come to attend the service.
Hmm.
But that night it was raining extremely heavily,
Oh, I remember that.
and we got stuck in a lot of flood on Sukhumvit, and
Uh-huh.
then eventually it was going to be difficult for my mom to get out of the car because there
Oh,
was the water levels up, and so I ended up not being able to make it, and I always felt bad for that. So I just wanted to share that because your father was a shining light, for me when I was
thanks very
just
much.
a young guy. So
Yeah. I mean, you know what? Uh, I, I, I don't think it's the last day of the service, but I think it's Tuesday that is also heavy rain, and we have to wait until like probably almost 8 to start the service, or 7:30 instead of 7.
yeah,
And then about 9 p.m. someone show up. It's the ex bank ex bank executive that show up at about 9. He came from from some provinces, I don't remember,
mm,
but we still there. So
yeah.
he's like, oh, I just arrived. Like, wow, yeah, that night was horrible. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I appreciate, the what your father did to, just a young guy like me coming to Thailand and all of that. Let's now just spend a few minutes talking about some of your advice. You've got some wisdom that you've built up over years,
Hmm.
and I know that there's plenty of people that are watching and listening who are building their careers in finance.
Mm.
There's some that are trying to start and get into finance, but there's plenty of people who have signed up to join this and who are either watching or listening or watch it afterwards. What are some tips that you would give from your experience about how to advance your career and how to have a better career?
I think the first thing for the work, especially for the work in finance, is your integrity. I think very important. You need to be very ethical. You're working on somebody else's money, right? So that's the first thing I would say that whoever wants to come in this world must have. Uh, but again, uh, I mean nowadays it's not so easy, right? For those young guns, because you have so many variety of works, right? Many people go startup, many people go fintech, tech world, finance. Not like 20 years ago that we are called like the golden people, right?
Those are the days.
Those are the days. But I think finance world is still very very important to this world, and I would say that of course compared to the tech, it might not be the best uh, paying job in the world now, but it's the work that give you one thing that I don't think any other thing give you. It gives you the knowledge about how to finance, or your personal finance.
Mm.
Give you the opportunities for you to learn about investing, about financing, which everybody needs to work with money, right? So if you understand finance, if you understand investing, that helps you in the long term, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's the thing that I mean it doesn't pay you, but it gives you it's free advice.
That's great. Yeah, so integrity and the idea that what you get from it is something that's such a valuable lesson
Yeah,
for
yeah.
your whole life related to investing and the like.
Mm.
I just wanted to bring up a question from Ekasit,
Yes.
who was a student in my valuation
Oh,
masterclass
okay.
boot camp. In fact, he said, I'd like to ask you how to manage life under long hours of work and not feeling overwhelmed by it. Yeah, share your thoughts about
Okay.
that.
I think first thing is mindset. Of course, I already tell you that, right? I think I mean, I don't think even in our or any other work now, uh, you cannot you can avoid hard working, right? You still need to work hard. So you need to set your mind first that okay, why not, right? But the second thing that I mean, my dad does this, and I also do this, is that don't bring your work home. I mean, once you step out of your office, make sure that you cut off your mind. Otherwise, it's too much. I mean, you probably cannot sleep, right? Because your head's still full of things, right? That happens sometimes, of course. I mean, I cannot avoid that. Sometimes you have something that really serious, of course.
Yeah.
But try to learn how to just cut off, right? Once you go home, you just enjoy, see your kids, like you talk to your mom, whatsoever,
Yeah.
right? Enjoy your football, enjoy your Netflix, whatsoever, right? I mean, otherwise it's too much. Try to do
Yeah.
that, and you'll be okay.
That's good advice. So separate. Now that's harder these days when people are
It's
working
hard.
from
It's
home,
hard. I
and
know.
then like
I
that. I
mean,
know
people line you, right?
my father worked from home almost all of his career as a salesman for DuPont.
Oh.
And what my father generally did, he didn't do it all the time, but particularly when he was younger, but he would dress up,
Mm.
go to work in the
Oh.
house.
Oh, okay.
Not necessarily a tie, but a nice outfit, a
Right.
nice
Right. Right.
pair of shoes. And I carry that same habit in that,
Mm.
in Thailand, we don't wear shoes in the house, but I have a pair of shoes for my office that's like my work shoes.
Right.
And whenever I'm working, I'm wearing those shoes. And then when I'm relaxing, I take those shoes off. So just symbolism,
I know.
something like that can
This
help
is
us
very interesting
connect.
because, as I mentioned to you, that I watch football. I watch NFL.
Yep.
It's so it's so strange that sometimes we see a team, a coach ask the player to wear business suit when they go to the game. It's
Right.
like they don't really they wear uniform, right? But on the bus, the coach asked them to wear suit. So, like you said, they want to treat this as work.
And professionals.
Yeah, professional.
Um,
Wow.
Another thing that I did in my case is that I liked reading, and when I went into my bedroom, I always had a great book to read, and
Mm,
then I would just get into a book, and then I would just lose myself in that. And I think the other thing for me is that I never use an alarm clock almost in my whole life,
mm,
basically. And
Really?
particularly when I came to Thailand, I stopped any type of alarm clock.
Oh,
And so I wake up naturally in the morning all of my life. But
wow. Your bio clock is very good.
my bio clock is definitely, it's got a lot of practice basically. But basically, one of the things, and I know because I talk to a lot of young people about how to be efficient and effective and all that, I always tell them never, ever take from your sleep to be more effective.
Mm,
It will have a
true,
cost,
true.
in productivity in the day and in your health long term. So I think another thing is making sure you get a good night's sleep is
I
critical.
totally agree. I mean, I'm an early guy, so I sleep early and wake up early. Yeah. I mean, I'm not a party guy also, so I don't enjoy partying.
Yes, I know that feeling. And I also, as a sell side analyst, you take fund managers out and all that. But
Yeah.
I never took fund managers out in the
Ah,
evening. I left that to other people, and I always had lunch with them. So I
okay.
think that's another thing is that ultimately, in you have to set your own boundaries.
Hmm.
The company and the
True.
boss is going to roll over those boundaries if you don't set them. And
Mhm.
any good boss, if you set a policy like I've got a family event and I have to go home tonight at 6, make it clear, set your boundaries. And another example of that, when I graduated from university, I studied at Cal State Long Beach, and then I finished my bachelor's degree, and I got hired by Pepsi. And
Oh.
on the first day of Pepsi, I asked my boss if it's okay if I leave at 5 p.m. And he said, "Why?" And I said, "Because I start my MBA tonight."
Ooh.
And he said, "Oh, absolutely. In fact, Pepsi paid for my MBA. If I got
Wow.
grades, they reimbursed."
All
So I
right.
have to thank Pepsi for that. But the point is, the two other guys that started in the same operation as me with the same education and all that, they were shocked
Mm.
that I said that. And then I stood up for myself and said, I'm going to be doing my MBA. But 2 years later, after having stood up for myself, I had my MBA, and I had set limits. And I think a lot of people complain about work hours and all that, but they're letting it happen. You have
Yeah,
to set
that's true.
limits.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's really true.
And let me ask you another piece of advice, and we're gonna wrap up in just a
Okay.
second. But the piece of advice is about just life in general. You've been
Mhm.
through a lot of experiences, and I'm just curious, like, what's your philosophy on life, or what are some of the things that you've learned
Mm.
that you could share with the people watching and listening, so that they can incorporate something like that into their life.
I think go back to what my father taught us is that try your best. I think it's a very simple thing, but it helps you on the mindset thing because especially if in this world, in this finance world, because many times you try your best, but the market goes the opposite way. You cannot do anything, right? I mean, many years ago in 1990, actually, 1 year earlier than the crisis, 1996. I remember that at the time, like I told you, Kun Montri told us to sell ECD, right? So I went on the roadshow. I mean, we had like a 6 week operation work to prepare a company to go for a roadshow. Actually, I mean, each guy we were assigned to do different companies, right? At that time, I helped Central Patana on roadshow to I mean it's like a world roadshow, right? You go
Mhm.
UK, you finish in UK, you start from Singapore, Hong Kong, blah blah blah, right? And you close in UK. I remember that during the time that we went to New York, at the time Dow went down like 200 points. That time, not now. 200 points then was like crisis. And remember the fund manager asked at the time Kun Suthi-Tham, right? What are you doing? Why are you here? They don't want to talk to us, right? So basically, the market was so bad. And then I remember when we went into UK, into Fleming office in UK, London, uh, we had the closing meeting, and at that time, Ian Hannum was the head of capital markets at Fleming. And we have Kun Korn, we have Kun Suthi-Tham, myself, and CFO of Central Patana. And then uh, Ian Hannum said that we won't sell anything other than your ECD, and he left. It's like, what's going on? So basically, Kun Korn have to explain that. Basically, Fleming is so committed that Fleming will not sell any other instrument. So when the market opened, CPN will be the first issue to go. Said, oh, okay. So this means what? We had like 6 hard working weeks to prepare for this, but the market didn't go along, right? What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
So it's a mindset thing, right? So
Yep.
you try your best. If the market don't open, too bad. That's it.
Yeah. That's great advice, to just try your best, do your
Try
best.
your best.
And nobody can blame you if you've tried your best. It's
Exactly. And you won't blame yourself too.
Right. Yeah,
Right?
not the key, because people will blame you for anything, anytime. It can
Yeah,
happen.
but if you don't blame yourself, I think your self-esteem will be very good.
Yeah.
Because you try your best.
Mm.
And we still have time, right?
Yes.
And I apply this also to actually I ran actually Flag Football Association here in Thailand. I won't now, but this is like 2014, almost 10 years ago. We had the Asian Beach Game in Thailand in Phuket, and Thai team participate. So I told my players, try your best. You train now, you train hard now, you won't regret even you lose. Because you said, oh, if you lose, you said, okay, I try my best. But if you don't train hard now, and then you lose, you say, oh, should I do this? Should I do that? Why you talk about that, right? If you train now, you know you try your best. It's okay. Win or lose, it's okay.
Yeah, that's a good point too. When you get to the point that you've trained for, it's time to let go and
Yeah.
just be your best.
Yeah.
I remember when I was vice president of CFA Society Thailand in 2012, we had the Thai team competing in the global competition. It was New York, and I happened to be there for meetings with clients. And so it was at the Bloomberg offices, I believe.
Oh.
And there was 4 teams competing in this, and the Thai team was the Thammasat team, undergrad students. And I was talking to them, and their 3 teams that they were competing against were all master's degree students.
Wow.
And it was, a tough competition. But my advice to them, and they asked me, what advice would you give? I said, well, what's the competitive advantage of Thai people? Smile.
Good one.
You're young and you have energy, and you need to get up there and bring your energy and smile.
And being the underdog is good.
Yeah. And they got up there, they did an amazing job, and they won the Global Research Challenge.
All right.
They were the best team out of 3,000 teams that were competing or whatever it was globally. But, I want to kind of end it with the idea of what are some uniquenesses about Thailand. And, having lived now longer in Thailand than I lived in the US, I've seen a lot. And in fact, I have a course coming up next year at Satsin about, 4 unconventional or contradictory ideas about management. And one of them is about KPIs. And I know KPIs are all the rage in the world of business these days. Particularly, I'm talking about individual KPIs. But one of the things that is the beautiful strength of Thai people in the working environment is that what's important to them is a harmonious working environment.
Wow.
And I've observed that, and it doesn't matter so much for Americans, but it matters for Thai people. And so one of the lessons that I've learned is be careful about over incentivizing individuals in the work environment, because they'll lose that uniqueness of the Thai culture, which is to have a cohesive work environment. And so that's one of the things that I'll be talking about in that course. But I'm just wondering, from a management of Thai people, a management experience that you've had, maybe you could give a little tip for those people that are listening that are starting to manage people. What's the best way?
I think you need to make sure that you understand the context of your culture in your own, because I mean, I was lucky that I work in different environment, right? Imagine when I work in Mitsubishi Motors, I always tell people that I work in a company which is a joint venture between Thai family and Japanese, but run by five Chinese family. So it's a three cultures at the same time. So you need to understand who you talk to and how you talk to each one, right?
Mm.
So when I work for myself, it's a totally small business environment, right? My wife and I run it. Of course, sometimes we don't see, not sometimes, many times we don't see the same view of the business, right? So you also have to understand also, right? And you work with the teachers who just newly graduate. Most of them are from totally background from me. Also, you need to adjust yourself,
Mm.
adjust your philosophy of working. And many times you have to teach them how to think because they just freshly out of school and no idea,
Right.
right? But you teach them in a way that they can run as a teacher for American franchise. So
Mm.
that's another way, right? Now I'm in a big office, almost 800 people. We have front office, back office, totally different people from different background. You have those research analysts, very capable guy, those high fly investment bankers, right? To the sales, the investment consultant, which even more variety, right? So you need to make sure that you talk to each person, you have to talk to different person in different ways,
Right.
right? My philosophy is that each person, each one has different button to push, right?
Mm.
So you need to make sure that you understand the difference of
Great.
people.
Great advice. We did get a question here, which is, what advice would you give to a professional in the early career years who wants to transition from corporate development analyst role in developing country, I believe in this case maybe Myanmar, to a public market analyst job, for example, an equity research analyst or capital market analyst role in Thailand? Whoa, that's a tough question.
Yeah, but I mean, basically, you want to move to Thailand or what? I mean,
I guess that's part of it, but let's say that transition, let's just say generally, let's talk about transitioning from corporate development analyst.
no, I think analysts in Thailand is very open work. I think we are short of it, right? I mean, from what I talked to Kun Paiboon, right?
Yep.
I mean, the number of analysts never increased. We have about 300 plus, and that's it, right? Because of the cost issue, right? Like I said earlier, that broking business doesn't seem to be like a good business for a while. So companies, security companies, I think limit the number of analysts. So I
Yeah.
think yes, in a way, you should be able to find jobs, analyst job in Thailand. There's a lot of opportunities, and like Andrew said, uh, analysts need to come up early. Actually, it's very interesting that when I went to give a talk to a Bangkok Bank program, the student internship program, a student came to me and asked, "I want to be an analyst." I said, "Are you prepare yourself? Do you prepare yourself to come up at 6 or 7?" It's like stunned. I said, "Uh-oh,
Yeah.
different world."
How badly do you want it?
They don't understand, right? So I mean, that's why it's not easy,
Yeah.
right? It's not easy. If you need to adjust yourself to that kind of work too, right?
Yep.
I mean,
And I'll just give a little bit of advice. The first one is make sure you do the CFA program, because that's evidence that you have a commitment
yeah,
to, the type of analysis that has to be done.
yeah.
That's the first thing that I would say. The other thing is that try to start analyzing companies right now,
Mm, sure.
and
Agree.
the more that you can, and some young people say, well, I don't have any money. How can I invest or analyze? I said, make a model portfolio, make a mock portfolio.
No.
Start
I think
playing around.
even before that, make sure you read the reports,
Exactly.
a good one.
Yeah. Or in this case, also join the Valuation Masterclass Bootcamp. I've got students from 40 different countries around the world. More than 400 people have joined.
Yes.
But not all of those can make it to the end because it's a boot camp. In fact, Friday was our graduation
But it's a
ceremony.
good one. I can tell you, it's a good one.
Yeah, we're definitely pushing hard and improving. I'm surprised that I can provide all the analysts that Thailand could absorb if there was a need for analysts through the boot camp. So hopefully I'll keep doing that. All right, I want to wrap it up here. I don't want to take more of your time, but is there any final words that you would like to share with the listeners and the viewers?
I think from what I see from the questions that most of the people are people that like to join finance world. I would say that yes, I think we welcome. We are short of people in finance in every aspect. I think we are short in analysts, investment banking, investor consultant. So I think we need more good people. So learn about it and join us. That's it.
Great advice. I'm gonna take you off screen now, but I want to talk to you for a couple of minutes. So just hang on if you can.
Sure.
Okay, I'll be right back. All right. So what a great discussion. An hour of the time of one of the seasoned executives in Thailand and a leader in the world of finance. And great advice on many different things about how to have a happy and successful career in finance. Think about what he said in particular about integrity. Remember that the Careers in Finance Live is brought to you by Valuation Masterclass Bootcamp. To join the January 8th bootcamp, go to valuationmasterclass.com/bootcamp. And for anybody listening that has any questions, feel free to reach out to me or any of my team on LinkedIn. That's a wrap for Careers in Finance today. I hope you have a wonderful